So sustainable infrastructure basically refers to having infrastructure for life. In simple terms, okay, that's a gross exaggeration, but basically infrastructure that will be there for future generations without necessarily impacting the natural resources, and as well as still fulfilling the social and the economic aspects that it's supposed to fulfill. So on the other hand, resilience is the ability of this infrastructure to function even in situations that are very disruptive. When you think about earthquakes, floods, so resilient infrastructure in essence should be able to withstand all these calamities and hazards that happen. So when you think about sustainability, you have to factor in the fact that resilience has to come in sustainability in the aspect of infrastructure. Just out of curiosity, how many here are in the engineering field? Oh my God, that's very discouraging. Yes? Oh, you are? Oh, you're a what engineer? Software. Oh, yeah. I get it. I don't know, for some extent, I don't know, like us, what do we call it? I don't know what word to use, but engineers that are from like the older fields always forget that there are newer emerging fields in the engineering field. So yeah, that's good to know. Anyway, on to the next point. So back to the quote that I said that we read before. We could reread it just so, to emphasize on what I was talking about. So from the quote, again I will reiterate, reducing our levels of consumption will not be a sacrifice but a bonus. It will simply redefine the meaning of success. So from this quote, I'm going to use it to explain my next point. So for you, when you think about a successful project, what, like in terms of infrastructure, buildings, dams, generally infrastructure that we have, what do you normally envision? Anyone? Less traffic. Yeah. So in essence, for sustainability to occur, we should be able to, for example, have less traffic in Kenya, especially in Nairobi. Oh my God, it's hell. Without impacting like the social aspects of our lives, and it also being able to stand the test of time over time. So because of this, we also need to start looking at sustainability, especially in the infrastructural sector, more a necessity than a bother. Because I feel like that's like people rarely, especially in Kenya, there's rarely considerations for that. So now, on to the next question. Why now more than ever do we need sustainable infrastructure? With the current happenings, as you know, climate change, it's definitely been said over and over. The climate is changing. We're having rising sea levels, and now more than ever, it's evident in the fact that there's so much hazards and calamities happening all over. Like recently, the wildfires in California. Every year you hear, oh, there's been a wildfire in Australia. Oh, the next year, like it's like happening on the daily. Like it even seems like a norm. So for this reason, we really need to have resilient, sustainable infrastructure. Infrastructure that will not just go to hell when a fire happens or a flood and then you have to start from zero. Because obviously that's a lot of money going into waste. And the second reason we really need sustainable infrastructure is the fact that urbanization is happening at a very fast rate. And it's unstoppable, as you know. So as we are moving, everything is so, nowadays everything is, we are so intertwined, like in earlier years where probably your country will be producing agricultural products for Kenya only. As we are currently, food, everything, a lot of supplies are exported and imported. So obviously, a failure in infrastructure is going to be very catastrophic in terms of a country being able to sustain itself. And the third reason is because of the fact that the current infrastructure we have is aging every day. And this infrastructure was not designed for current conditions because, as you say, climate is changing a lot. So moving forward, we need to be designing our infrastructure and building our infrastructure with the future in mind. You know, like worst case scenario, rather than in 10 years. We need to be designing for 20 years to come, 100 years to come. Yeah. So the third reason, fourth, is because we need value for money. So some fact checks. So in the financial year 2020-2021, the Kenyan budgets are set aside close to 172.4 billion for several infrastructure projects. And this is like dams, all kinds of infrastructure. You know, housing, roads, that's the amount that was set aside for infrastructure. And just another fact check, also in between financial years 2018, 2019 to 2022, 2023, the Kenya National Highways Authority is planning to construct and rehabilitate close to 38,020 kilometers of road and maintain close to 85,000 kilometers of existing road. That's a lot of money, huge figures, huge scale of operations, which we definitely do not need to be throwing money down the drain. This money needs to stand for something. We cannot be budgeting for 172 billion and then in 5 years we have nothing to show for, or the infrastructure needs to be done away with, so it's not serving the needs that are there currently at that time. So the other reason is because we have new technologies that are emerging. So this presents us with opportunities to do better. You know, you cannot be doing the same thing over and over again when there's so much changing, there's so many opportunities, new technology. Yeah, and as we know, we cannot run away from it, so that's always another reason. And moving forward, we need to design with humans in our minds. We have, like, most times, you've seen some footbridges that have been built in places and no one uses them. That's because most of the time when we are planning for this infrastructure, we do not consider that what are the all infrastructure that is not serving the community. They are not, in fact, they feel like they did not need it, when essentially they needed a footbridge, just not at the place where it's put. So like to discuss an example of ways in which we have currently put sustainable infrastructure practices into place. So currently we have a project known as happening currently under construction known as the LAPSET program, which is the Lamu Port South Sudan Ethiopia Transport Corridor project. So this project is very, very humongous. It consists of a port, which has 32 berths, highways that are gonna connect from Lamu to Isiolo to Juba to Addis Ababa to Garsen. You can see from the map there where the highway will be crossing in the railway. The red is for the highways and the green is for the railways. So yeah, like at the end of the whole project, these are all the infrastructure we have. We have port, we have a port, we have highways, we have pipelines, we have a railway, and we have 3 airports in 3 cities. So Lamu Port is part of this project. So for one, Kenyans have this habit of, like, the moment an infrastructure project is discussed, people go up all up in arms. Oh my God, you're gonna disrupt wildlife, which are very valid concerns. And half the time, people just get into these conversations without deep understanding of what is happening and what's being done. So it shows that really there is need for sustainable infrastructure. People are crying for it. People know about it. Humans are more knowledgeable right now. No one is gonna get excited over a project just because it's there. They're going to ask questions. So for the Lamu Port, as I said on the previous slide, yeah, it's part of the LAPSET and it consists of 32 berths. So currently we are complete, and the third one is going to be complete by June next year. So what necessitated the start of this project was the fact that the current port was not serving the needs as a result of building of sustainable infrastructure. So we needed to come up with a solution. So the county government, the national government, and a group of consultants came up with this idea to incorporate it into the LAPSET project by building a port. So as you know, 50% from, as we've been saying, while the whole while globally there's climate change happening every day. So for Kenya, this is also an estimation, projection, a prediction. So 50% of Mombasa Island and almost 71% of Lamu Island is under the threat of impacts from rising sea levels by the end of this century. So for this reason, and looking into this, coming up with this project, the available ecosystem in terms of the existing scenery, the fish species, the ocean front and the beaches, all of them were mapped. And then a cost-benefit analysis was done for this project. And then after all this was done, they came to a conclusion to build a new port. So some of the sustainability measures that were put into place to ensure that this project is sustainable and resilient is before anything started, construction started, there was approval from the relevant authorities, like the NEMA, National Environmental Management Authority and the KeNHA Forest Services. And this was after I had done an environmental impact assessment test. Environmental impact assessment. So basically, that's where, before a project is done, you have to do a study of how the environment is going to be impacted by a project, by the construction, by everything, and come up with mitigation measures for the impact that is negative. Because of course not all impact is going to be negative, there's going to be some positive impact. So after this, throughout the construction, it was agreed that they're gonna preserve all the heritage sites through zoning of water catchment areas, forest reserves, and also defining no construction zones so as not to cause an effect on the aquatic life. On to the next point. There's some stereotypes people normally have around sustainable infrastructure. So most people imagine that when you talk about for something for infrastructure to be sustainable, you only need to construct sustainability applies only to the process of construction, which is a lie. So for sustainability, for a sustainable infrastructural project, you will need to apply sustainable measures throughout all the life cycles of an infrastructure system. So for a project to be considered sustainable, you need to design sustainably, build sustainably, maintain it sustainably, and even the financing should be sustainable. For sustainable design, this is normally the most crucial bit in infrastructural development, because technically this is the first stage. After you've done an environmental impact assessment, you've gotten finances. When it comes to the technical nitty-gritties, this is like it. If you go wrong there, that's it. So ways in which it can be done. So currently, KeNHA does not, from the design manuals we have, the existing manuals for design of infrastructure, buildings, there is nowhere where environmental sustainability has been thought about. So one way we can do this is by incorporating the use of, or coming up with a design manual that focuses on green infrastructure. When you say green infrastructure, we mean sustainable infrastructure. Infrastructure that encompasses the environment in which we live in. So an example of where green infrastructure has been given prominence is in Myanmar, and South Asian country. So there's a project currently known as the project in southern Myanmar known as that's in Dawe, in a city in Dawe. So the project connects goes all the way through the whole place to India, to Chinese. I have a problem with pronouncing that word, so I'm afraid. It gives me a lot of it's difficult. Myanmar. I'm sure that sounds pronounced. So it goes all the way to India and to China. So this project affects a lot of biodiversity, elephants, white rhinos. So before the construction of this project, the area was mapped out, and all the sections that were going to be impacted were earmarked, and measures were taken to ensure that the ecosystem was not going to be impacted significantly. So, and during the design, this was done to accommodate all this. So in the design, I don't know, I'm trying to make this clear. So during the design, a lot of aspects were put into consideration. Just a minute. So some of the measures, as you can see, traffic calming measures and jump outs to protect animals that accidentally can be trapped on the roadway. There were some wildlife barriers created to protect animals from vehicles and also serve as boundaries.